What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam and welcome back to another Comically Boston weekly nerdy news podcast that comes out every Monday, where we discuss everything that happened in the last week in nerddom. Not too busy a week for news, but there is a little bit of stuff to talk about. And first off, some solemn news to get into, and that would be that the legendary Jane Goodall passed away, and she was a primatologist and a friend to chimpanzees, and she died at 91. And I think I vaguely remember a book that she had to do with where she, was with one of these giant gorillas and people were scared of this gorilla, and she walked in and hung out with it, and it could do sign language and she communicated with them. And then one day got this gorilla, I think the gorilla's name was Coco or something, and she got the gorilla a cat, and then one day the cat died and the gorilla was so distraught over this other animal that's not even its species dying. And the whole book was about her exploring the emotions of these other animals, that even though they're just animals and we see them as apes, they're not King Kong. They don't want to rip us apart. Some of them are super aggressive. Some of them are super docile and super sweet, emotional creatures that care if a cat dies. You know what I mean? Legendary Jane Goodall, she believed in the best of the world, and I really loved, anytime she spoke, I always sat there and listened intently, and I always loved seeing her, when she was on Fallon or something, speaking about a good cause. It's very sad that I saw she passed away the other day, and I didn't see enough people talking about it, I feel like her death should have been as big as, Ozzy Osbourne, you know what I mean? Not in the sense that, she made music that the whole world listened to, but, she was as impactful a person, I think, on humanity. Yeah, you know what I mean? In a good way. And, just very sad that she passed away. Shout out great Jane Goodall, and rest in peace. Moving on into some of the news, though, The Simpsons, and it says Homer's coming back for seconds in theaters July 23rd, 2027. So 2 years away, we are getting a The Simpsons movie sequel, and it's kind of paying homage to the original Simpsons movie poster where the O in movie was a donut, and he took a bite out of it and put the donut back. That was a very famous movie poster when I was a kid, The Simpsons movie and the donut. And I never really watched The Simpsons, but I remember seeing The Simpsons movie, and it was good, but I don't know if I'll be here for The Simpsons 2, but hey, cool that they're getting a second movie and that they're paying homage to the original poster where he's taking the donut, but this donut has a bunch of twos that are sprinkles on top of the donut. Me personally, if I'm gonna get a donut, a strawberry frosted donut with sprinkles on top is always gonna be my go-to. If I see that, I'm gonna get it. But if not, I love a cream filled, a Boston cream, even a chocolate glazed or a honey dip glazed. Comment below, what's your favorite donut? And what's your favorite donut spot? Donna's in Tewksbury, if you guys know Donna's Donuts. Shout out Donna's. Another movie poster coming out, and I don't know if I've ever seen the first one, maybe on TV, but Zootopia 2 is coming to theaters November 26th, and I remember my roommate saying he really liked the first one and he thought it was good. So it looks like a bunch of animals in this Zootopia are loose and running through the streets, and they look, kind of nervous, like they're running from a mob or something, or there's a stampede behind them, and they're like, we're gonna get trampled, we gotta go, or they're running somewhere. Looks like there's a crowd on either side of the street watching them run. Maybe they're in a marathon, who knows. But there's also the second poster from Zootopia, and it looks like they're sitting on top of a manatee or a walrus who has a fish in his hand, and they're in a marshy swamp. Gross. I hope they're not going to a swamp. But that looks cute. Comment below if you liked Zootopia 1 and if you'll be watching Zootopia 2. But we've been dipping our toe into spooky season a little bit more, and some more spooky season movie reviews have been out on the channel. And I believe the first two for 2025 spooky season were The Mummy and The Mummy 2. I'm still trying to find The Mummy 3. It's not necessarily streaming anywhere, and I don't know if I want to rent it, but I was thinking maybe buy the DVD and then I have it in my collection if I ever want to watch it again. But, maybe I just rent it because maybe I don't want to ever see it again after that watch, you know what I mean? And then there's The Mummy, Tom Cruise's Mummy I've been thinking about doing. But comment below if you have any other spooky season recommendations that I should go check out. I believe there's this werewolf film out on Hulu or Peacock or one of those, and it had came out earlier this year, so I've been meaning to check that out. I think it has Frank Grillo in it, so maybe I'll check that out. But one of the spooky season movies that I've been highly anticipating for 2025, and that would be coming to select theaters October 17th and on Netflix November 7th, that would be Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. And this is a poster for Jacob Elordi's The Monster, or like the creature, or the monster of Frankenstein, if you would. And, you know, that cast Oscar Isaac playing Dr. Frankenstein, Jacob Elordi playing the monster, Mia Goth playing probably the bride, and then Christoph Waltz. I freaking love Christoph Waltz, but just an interesting like little first look at Jacob Elordi's monster. He's got like hair, but his face is like different parts and pieces, and his hands decaying. He's wearing like this full fur jacket. I don't know. From the trailer alone, that character looked crazy. So I can't wait to see what Guillermo del Toro's vision brought to life here. And I might watch that on Netflix, but who knows? For Halloween, you know, if it's going to be in a theater near me for Halloween, I might want to go check that out. Not necessarily a movie that I'm going to do a movie review on the channel for, but I figured it kinda has to do with spooky season. And growing up, this was one of my favorite Scooby-Doo movies of all time, and that would be Scooby-Doo in the Legend of the Vampire with the Wowie Wahoo. And, you know, like that, I think it's from 2003, I think I saw, Hanna-Barbera and shit. And this vampire was one of the first things I saw with vampires that I was like, oh, that's interesting. But also, like, I was a huge Scooby-Doo person. You know, I loved a bit of a mystery where it's like, oh my god, scary, scary, scary. And then by the end, it unfolds how they did it. And it's not so scary after all. You know, it's just scary at the beginning. But, you know, scary for a 4-year-old watching this in 2003, for sure. As a 26-year-old watching this, didn't really hit the same. But, you know, I thought it was still good. It's still cute and still, like, one of the better Scooby-Doo movies for me. And, like, between this Legend of the Vampire, I think there was, like, an alien invasion one, which, like, was also great with, like, the girl in the bell-bottom jeans and her dog, and like Scooby gets to date the dog, you know, the other girl, and then he gets to get the girl, and they're like exactly like them, and they're groovy, and they love snacks and 70s shit, you know what I mean? And it's perfect. And then we find out that they're aliens, and you're like, oh shit, you know, like, it's still a great movie though. Like, one of those two are probably my favorite, most remembered Scooby-Doo projects. But comment below, I'd love to hear, what is your favorite Scooby-Doo movie growing up, or even like maybe you have kids now, what is their favorite Scooby-Doo project coming out? Maybe it's something brand new, like maybe it's that Scoob movie that came out that I never saw because I'm old school, baby. If I'm gonna watch a Scooby-Doo movie, I'm gonna watch the one that James Gunn wrote, right? Like Scooby-Doo Monsters Unleashed or whatever. But moving on from some Scoobamus Doobamus, we are going over to some Game of Thrones. And coming up here in the spring is coming. Normally you hear winter is coming when it's referred to Game of Thrones, which it is heading into the winter for us. But A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, starring Duncan the Tall, is the knight we're going to be following. And this is the man here playing him, or at least the look of him. I don't know the actor's name off the top of my head. But there was an image released that says spring is coming, and he is on horseback with a shield on his back, and he has 2 other horses, and it looks like he's walking just out in the hills, out in the fields somewhere. I thought maybe that was like the Eyrie or something up on that rock, up on that hill there, but no, it doesn't look like any particular landmarks from Game of Thrones that you might recognize in this picture, but it does say Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, coming to HBO Max in spring of 2026, so stay tuned for that. I know House of the Dragon is also coming next year, season 3 of that, so hopefully that's coming summertime. So as far as HBO shows for 2026, we have A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms coming early 2026, and then summertime, House of the Dragon. So 2 different Game of Thrones shows coming out next year. Can't wait for that, and I will certainly be breaking those down on the channel. And if you want to go check out my breakdowns for House of the Dragon season 1 and 2, I believe, those breakdowns are already up on the channel, so go check those out. Now, I'm a fan of the Fast and the Furious movies, and especially the early ones. You know, Fast 1 to 5, I think, are awesome movies. Even like 1 to like 7, maybe 8. You know, as soon as Paul Walker died is kind of when I checked out. But we have found out some interesting information about Fast and the Furious X Part 2. And Vin Diesel had been posting that like production has started and that like they're going back to the streets, they're doing this and that the movie's already been in the works. But then Universal confirmed the other day that Universal execs are not sure they will make the final Fast and the Furious movie unless there is $50 million in budget cuts. Despite what Vin Diesel has claimed, there's no approved script, no release date, and most of the cast do not have deals to return yet. So unless he wants to cough up $50 million out of his own pocket from that budget, which you know he's making more than $50 million, right? Like, I'm sure the rest of the cast makes maybe $1 million, and he's like, oh, well, I'm the reason this is popular, so $100 million. When the real reason that the Fast and the Furious movies are popular are the cars and Paul Walker. They are not as famous a movies as they are because of solely Vin Diesel. And if he thinks that, he's dead wrong, and he shouldn't be able to make his final movie. He's also so delusional that, like, he thinks he's still Vin Diesel, where, like, he is thickened out and he's just like a big fat dad now. Like, he almost is Steven Seagal, you know what I mean? Like, get back in shape, Vin Diesel. Like, if he wants to make a great fucking movie, he could put his all into it. But instead, I think he's gotten lazy over the last couple of years, and they just come up with the first idea they think of, and then they're like, oh, we should go to space with a car? Why not? Let's go to space with a car. And I don't know if you guys saw Fast 9 or Fast 10. Both not great movies, you know, compared to the rest of the franchise. I was not really here for the last two films, you know. They were okay. Jason Momoa as the villain in the last film was good, but not great. Something else not great, Amazon the other day put all of the James Bond movies on, I believe there's 25 of them, and they put all of them on their platform. And as they did it, they removed the guns from all of the 007 posters, right? So the Dr. No one for sure, he's like holding a gun. GoldenEye, I'm pretty sure he's holding a gun. They like cropped the Spectre in a View to Kill so that like you can't see the gun in his hand type shit. And it just is so silly that they would do this because they like removed them from all of the posters. And it's so like, talk about being out of touch with reality. They're like, oh, well, there's a community mad that we're promoting gun violence with our platform. Anybody ever that's watched a fucking Bond movie, I don't think ever has gone, you know what? I think I'm gonna buy a gun because of this. Like, they're so delusional that they're like, well, 20,000 people signed this letter that your platform promotes gun violence. That's wonderful. So then they made this idea and they took the guns off the posters to appease 20,000 people. And then they pissed off 200,000 people. And even like, so, the pissed off 200,000, the pissed off 20,000, that's 220,000 people. There's 200 billion people in the world, you know what I mean? Like, there's a vast more, like, say there's 200 million people in the world, and I think there's actually more than that. Say there's 200 million that saw the Bond movies and know that he's a spy, he shoots, he kills. For fuck's sakes, the 007 logo has a gun in it. Like, just know your character. Know what you're doing. You want to take a gun off of a fucking Dora the Explorer poster? Sure. Don't promote gun violence to children. Children aren't watching 007. If they are, they're fucking cool kids. And they're learning about the world sooner than they should. Like I did, you know. I saw many of movies I shouldn't have seen as a child. And it made me better for it, I think. You know, it either scared the pants off of me and then made me realize that the world isn't so scary because there's scary ass movies out there and they're fictional. They're not real movies, you know. Like, there is some scary shit out in the world, like serial killers and all types of shit, war. But like, James Bond's a secret agent spy in the platform that now owns them, Amazon. Like, you're definitely not making the Broccoli family feel any better about where their characters and who has their characters in their hands and who's going to be taking this forward. If it wasn't already confirmed that Denis Villeneuve, after he does Dune Part 3, is going to be doing the next Bond film, I would be incredibly worried that Amazon just doesn't know who they have. Like, we're not talking about Marvel characters here that are owned by Disney and maybe children are gonna see them, and even so, Hawkeye shouldn't have a gun or a bow and arrow in his hand. Those are deadly weapons. That's his fucking character. You shouldn't have that now. Like, we're fundamentally changing the character to appease a small group of people that are, up in arms that James Bond has a fucking gun. Let those 20,000 or 2 people, whoever the fuck was mad at that, let them be mad. Because the vast majority of the world knows who the fuck James Bond is. Like, this character has the license to kill. Oh, well, he does that with butter knives and his fucking perky spirit. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, Amazon? Like, are you out of your mind doing some dumbass shit like this? Like, oh my god, I couldn't believe it. And then I'm watching, like, as I heard this news, I go, well, it's been a slow news week. Maybe this is what the main topic of the show will be for the week. And, you know, I don't want to make it the main topic, but there's not really a whole lot else going on. So, like, over the weekend, too, I had been like, I kind of want to watch the Bond movie now. And I went back and started the Bond movies and did Daniel Craig's first movie, Casino Royale. In the Casino Royale poster, he's sitting at a poker table with a gun, with a silencer, and it's, you know, out of focus, so it's a little blurry, but, like, it's still on the poster, and then it says Casino Royale, and the 007 is in the O's of the Casino in Royale, and the 7 has a gun on it. The actual 007 logo comes with a gun on it. They're so delusional, and I'm so upset that Amazon thinks they're fucking slick and thought nobody would notice, and that, we'll do this to please those people. Whoever is in charge making these decisions to, well, we don't want, like, whoever these PR teams that are so incompetent and, like, scared, they're scared to piss people off. You're not in the business of not pissing people off. You're in the business of making good fucking movies. Good fucking James Bond movies now. If you wanted to purchase the character of 007, you need to have balls and cojones to be able to go, hey, you're mad this character has a gun? Go watch something else. This isn't for you then. If you do want to watch that, then this is a badass fucking movie. Like, I'm not going to rant anymore about it, but there's a purpose to a James Bond movie and a reason why they've been so successful as a franchise, and they only have 25 movies over, I don't know, 100 years. Like, these movies are iconic for a reason. Do not fundamentally change the character because you're fucking scared. Pansies over at Amazon. So unbelievably dumb that they would even comprehend doing something like that to this character that so many millions of people love when fucking a small percentage of them are bitching and complaining. Like, God, so dumb. Just to wrap up today's show, talk about a little Marvel news, but over the last week, speaking of Marvel Zombies had came out and released all of its episodes over, I believe, 2 weekends ago, 2 Fridays ago, and last Tuesday, my full breakdown for all 4 episodes of Marvel Zombies and a recap of the What If episode 5 from season 1 titled What If Zombies. That episode and the 4 episodes of Marvel Zombies breakdown is now currently out on the channel. Go check that out if you haven't. And honestly, just a spooky season vibe, but also Marvel. It is animation if you're not into that type of stuff. Give it a shot still, because it's actually a genuinely good story, and it's like not necessarily every other Marvel movie where it ends and it's on like a good note and you're like hopeful and you're like, oh wow, that was nice. It kind of ends on like a sour note, like, damn, that sucks, you know, like, you know, like it's not like a cheery story. Like, some terrible shit happens to our characters and they're just going through it and you feel for them, you know what I mean? And it's just like, what happens in this terrible apocalyptic world, and it's crazy, you know, like, you would not want to be the person on the other side of the zombie Avengers. That's all I'm saying. Over the last weekend, though, the Russo brothers had released this image from wrapping Avengers Doomsday, and a couple of years ago when they had wrapped Avengers Endgame, they did something similar, and it was like, look closely, and everyone looked at that image and like made out like an A and like an E, and it was like, oh, this was like a tease for Avengers Endgame or something like that. They did something similar here with this black and white shot of the set, and it's like a picture of, I believe, Joe Russo just sitting there, or Anthony Russo, or vice versa, and the other one's taking the photo. And it's just like this giant green screen or blue screen set, and we see this thing in the foreground here, and it looks like maybe that could be an A, and then maybe there's like a spotlight in the middle, and that's pointing over towards like a metal wall that has like maybe some X's on it. So maybe it's A and X, so maybe it's like Avengers versus X-Men type of thing. We kind of already knew that, but they're not going to call the movie Avengers versus X-Men, so it's like still Avengers Doomsday, unless last second they're going to change it to Avengers versus X-Men, which I don't see happening. But maybe that's just like what the movie's about. Or some people were saying maybe they saw some other stuff. I don't really see anything. You know, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I just see a black and white goddamn photo and a guy sitting here. I don't, like, nothing is jumping out at me telling me that this is a signal or anything like that. And I was like, you know, maybe playing with the brightness and like the contrast and stuff like that to try and see like maybe there's a character in the background hiding in plain sight and we just can't see him because of how dark it is. I didn't see anything like that, so I don't know what this is about. But they released this image and they were like, look closely, and it's like, I don't know what's up. But more importantly, Avengers Doomsday has wrapped filming, one of the biggest productions of the year, and like so many stars in Hollywood all dedicated towards this one project. And I'm sure there will be like multiple weeks of reshoots and shit like that, but it's promising that they've finished, you know, wrapped, and they maybe have some script done for the first movie that they're happy with, and then, you know, maybe they'll get into the editing bay and then realize they need some extra shots later, and then they do that. But very insane stuff. And I'm also now curious, now that this is over, how soon after this do they start filming Secret Wars? Or have they already started and we just don't know that? You know, like, I don't know. All I know is that, like, there's, what, like 30 some odd actors or 60 something actors that we already know that are going to be in this film. And there's probably an easy 15 to 20 more outside of that list that we can think of that should be in this film. So, I don't know. This film's going to be massive. I think it's going to be so much bigger than Endgame and Infinity War. And, like, I'm just so fascinated to find out why Robert Downey Jr. is back as Dr. Doom and how the hell that makes sense, you know what I mean? But comment below your thoughts if you saw anything in that picture, or if you're just your general Avengers Doomsday thoughts. Are you excited for it? Do you think they really did wrap filming? And do you think they're going to start filming Secret Wars sooner rather than later? When do you think the trailer for that will be out? Probably Super Bowl, I'm guessing, is when that will drop. And then it will be like Super Bowl and then, what, May or December? So it will either be like a couple of months out, or like, you know, giving you time to prepare for December for this movie, which is going to be huge. I can't wait. Speaking of can't wait, though, the Peacemaker season finale comes out Thursday, and James Gunn said it's massive. It's over 50-something minutes long. I can't wait to see this, feast my eyes on it. And a breakdown for the season finale of Peacemaker Season 2 will come out Friday. If you haven't caught up on that show, there's breakdowns currently out on the channel for that. Go check those out if you haven't. Please support the channel. I appreciate you all. I'd love to hear what you're watching down below in the comment section below, and, you know, if you have any recommendations for me, let me know. If there's any news I missed over the last week, let me know. I did have a busy week and I wasn't necessarily on Twitter just looking at news all the time, so comment below if there's any newsworthy stuff or topics that I missed. And if you would like to support this video, the best way to do that is liking this video, commenting down in the comment section below, sharing this video with a friend, subscribing. If you'd like to follow my other social medias, links for those down in the description below. Thank you guys so much for coming on by. Like this video, subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss future weekly nerdy news content and podcasts when they come out. And once again, my name is Big Cam, and I will see you beautiful people in the next one. Peace.